crypto is not something that would just slip away. One of my professors always said, follow the money. Look at where people are putting their money. It's a strategy that always works. My advice would be follow the money. If you look at where people are investing their monies, you would see that they would always be here.
Hello and welcome back to the Novice Podcast, where we feed our curiosity and learn through the minds of, our guests. Well, today's topic is about, the financial technologies. I'm sure you want to learn a lot about fintech and about those tech bros. Well, I'm not alone in the studio, and I'm with our very first female guest in the house, Yonodu Okeugo. She is the General Manager for Business Banking and Partnership at VFD Microfinance Bank. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Tolu. Very, very excited to be here today.
See, I have a lot of questions today. I need to know all about fintech. I need to know what's the hype about fintech. What are the tech bros really doing and all of that. So what exactly is fintech?
Maybe I'll tell you about Texas, not tech bros, but yeah, I'm here already. So yes. So like you said it in your introduction, it's really about financial technology. It's a word that gets thrown around pretty often. What we've seen predominantly is that more and more you're beginning to see that a lot of companies, right, are trying to get closer to their customers, and they're infusing payments into their processes, right?
Okay.
So, I had a conversation with a friend of mine that was saying someone that sells some kind of materials for construction has infused payment into their process. Okay. And the person was like, well, he's now a fintech. I'm like, how? Really? So it's a word that gets thrown around pretty often. But at the core, what we've seen, the prevalence of what we've seen is that more businesses want to get closer to their customers. And there is a need to harmonize a lot of things under, one umbrella. So I'll give an instance. You're a fashion brand, right? And regular fashion. But now you want your customer, you know that you have customers, right? They can come and they can make payments. They can save because you want them to wake up next month and still buy clothes, right? When they begin to save, then there's money. From savings, people start saying you can pay for your utilities, right? Mm-hmm. You can come here and pay for EK, EDC, or you can pay for DSTV, or you can pay for airtime. So they introduce bill payments as a second.
All of that are subscriptions, right?
Subscriptions. So they begin to introduce different layers, right? And the thought around it is really that, there's been a lot flying around one app, because I really, really don't want to go to GTB to pay bill and then go to your app to pay one thing. So people want that convergence and that convenience. So most merchants, most companies are beginning to see the need for that, and they are infusing financial services to their process.
Okay.
They're infusing financial services to their process, right? Based on different licenses. So there are certain people that do it like a proper bank, right? When you say fintech, the word gets thrown around pretty often. But what I can say is that there are lots of opportunities that have been birthed from this. More and more companies have seen the need to move closer to their customers, to provide some sort of a convergence in terms of offerings and services to them, right? So, yeah.
When we talk about fintech, it sounds more like the Gen Z-like conversation. What would you say about, our parents, our grandparents who are not used to this term and, this convergence that we're talking about? What would you say to them? How can they fit into this picture technically?
I think they're fitting in quite all right. The interesting part of what has happened is that the solutions that we've seen, their options. People begin to realize that, for instance, for payments, you would always have transfers, you will have card as a mode of payment, you would have, POS, different layers according to the market groups. But funny enough, those are parents that you're talking about. They're always on Facebook. They're so well informed, and it is getting down to them. They are interested in what we're interested in, because the way parents are, people say that, and don't quote me, right? People say that, where the men are, the women gravitate towards it. So women started watching football because they want to be around their men and all that. But I would say that where the children are, the parents gravitate towards.
Okay.
Eventually, our parents want to do the kinds of things, and they want to pick interest that their children are interested in, because they want to keep a connection. Their pace might not be the same. Their understanding might not be the same, but eventually they get there, right? We have elderly people, for instance, in our bank that are a growing bulk. What they need to do is understand. And what companies need to do is provide that process of getting them to understand
the product.
The product, and they're fine, basically. But yes, right now, if you look at the subscriptions and the adoption, is more younger people, right? But then the older ones are also catching up eventually.
Okay. That's really interesting. But when you talk about fintech, it's more of like an application, unlike the traditional banking, whereby even if you don't want to make use of your applications, you can just walk into the bank and offer the services you want. But what we talk about a Nigerian, and then for Lagos now, we can say Lagos now we have light, and we're kind of settled. For other states in Nigeria, how can they integrate to these financial technologies?
Interesting question. I would say that everyone is picking up the pace.
Okay.
Yes, you made a valid point that you need electricity to even access any app that's on your phone.
Yeah.
You need, some level of data, and some people, can they afford it, is a question.
Yes.
But the interesting thing you must also know is that the telecommunication companies, I dare say, let me say it like that, they changed the terrain. And it's really interesting what happened with them, because we can come back now and say fintech. It could never have existed if we didn't have the strong foundation that the likes of MTN, Glo, and Airtel created, because they made the common man in Nigeria to have access to internet at very low cost, and even adapt phones that allows them to do several things. So when you go to villages, you would see people with Chinese smartphones, and they have a community way of keeping that working. So they have places they go to charge their phones. They have places they go, and when there's no lights, there's like a place that everybody can go and pay a subsidized amount to charge, So systems, once there is growth, the systems to support that growth naturally emerge. So those places that you think, there's no light, there's a structure that allows it to function, essentially. So name any state in Nigeria, it would surprise you when you get there to see that people still have Chinese smartphones.
Okay.
They find ways to charge it, right? But the essential part of your question, which is what I wanted to address, is that how there's no way to come into the banking or to say, this is the problem. That is the problem. And, it's interesting that you asked that, because if you're a company, I'll use the words carefully, that has sort of infused financial services into your offering as an add-on, right? Maybe that's not even your business, but you've infused it. You can't succeed if you don't understand a few things. The first thing is trust. When it comes to money, the core of the business
because I was even heading towards that.
It's trust. So you want to create. So it starts with the product creation.
Okay.
And, doing multiple updates as you get feedback from your customers, right? So you need to create a product that works. And I'll give reference. So we have a lot of commercial banks in Nigeria. And I was telling someone, which I won't mention names, there are certain banks that they never have issues. They are created, I said to my friend, this particular bank is created not to have issues. They never really have issues.
Okay.
You can go on their app 20 times in a year, you don't encounter one issue. But the day you encounter an issue, you then find out that their customer experience is trashy. Why? Because they expect not to have an issue. They created a product that works, right? But the day you have an issue, you pay for all those days that it worked, right? So those are even how most of the regular traditional banks grew, because you need to create products that work by itself. Then there's a second layer, trust. You need to build trust. And if, for instance, you don't have physical offices that people have to walk into, then you have to have an exceptional. One of my mentors always said that there's no new idea. Whatever I add to my app, you're going to find out tomorrow and you're going to add to your app, and it's just first mover advantage, which that advantage diminishes as you go, right? Mm-hmm. So you add whatever you want. This one adds, the other person keeps adding. And it's like a yo-yo. What is the differentiating factor is the customer service, is the customer experience, which is what you were talking about. If you build a solution that people don't necessarily have to see you, that means when they call, you must go through. Mm-hmm. When, they text you must go through.
Exactly.
And when they get to speak to someone, right, they must literally be having the time of their lives in that conversation. That is the game changer, right? And that is why more and more, most of these companies are snatching the market share of the more established brands, because to succeed, you need to invest tremendously in your customer experience. It's the lifeblood of this business.
I was thinking, when all those fintech banks open, like OPay and the like, I was asking people, have you opened your account and all of that? And they're like, no, I don't trust, because they don't have a structure, a full structure where they can walk into the banking sector, walk into the bank and then make the transactions that they want. So, and also, I won't blame them either, because startups right now, we'll hear they are doing well, they're doing so well. Next thing, we've heard this person has shut down and all of that. How can we build this? How can the consumers, how can the customers, build this relationship with the fintech companies?
Well, to be perfectly honest, they have a right to feel that way. Traditionally, what we're used to is that we walk into banks. But the question is, Tolu, when last did you visit your commercial banking partner? Honestly, I don't know for you, rhetorical question, but for me, I hate visiting those. I just don't want to go there. I mean, I don't have the time, and I just really don't want to walk into a bank, except I necessarily have to, So averagely maybe once or twice, but I get the point that when push comes to shove, you want a place that you can walk into. But when you look at the traditional banks and how it has evolved over the years, you would see that, because you made a point that some of them are here today, some of them are, the truth is, even with the traditional banks, we're at a phase that we're a bit more stable. 10 years ago, we had a lot of combinations, lots of people packed up, lots of people merged into new names. So if you look at maybe the early 2000s, we had a lot of people that went into banking that didn't succeed, that merged, that collaborated, that evolved to new names that we know today. That process must happen. You can't, and it happened with our traditional banking systems. It did happen, but now we're talking in retrospect that people seem to forget. In the same vein, that process must happen. It's really a birthing process that must happen. People would come, people would leave the scenario, people would come back, create better systems, collaborate, and bring better solutions to the market, right? But the more people come, the more mistakes are quickly made, the more standardized the processes become. and the more trusting the customers become. It's where we are in Africa. It's where we are growing to become. And to be, if you look at it in perspective as well, you'd see that even in other developing countries, and you take samples of financial services in different countries, you'd see that every country went through their own phase of mistakes, of issues, of, history is laden with all those things, right? But now I would say that we are closer to a place in Nigeria where these companies are, harmonizing. So lesser and lesser, there would be a few big names, and the ones that are not so strong would probably merge, collaborate, or do something else. But yeah.
So when we said like 10 years ago, it just occurred to me that about 10 years ago, we didn't have POS and all of that, and then we integrated into that. So are we ever going to get to that scenario whereby we'll just sit at our homes and order money, and then the money just comes to us and the like? Are we going to grow to that extent in the financial technology?
Of course. I mean, you go where your customers go. Everyone, even for the traditional banks, they are morphing to what would become the new standard of banking, because banking is banking, which is what I try to, when you start to, so there are people that infuse, like I mentioned, technology and infuse payments and infuse some financial services into their process, right? But again, for the bigger brands like OPay and Co, that's banking. And we've seen that you have OPay, who is a possible leader. You have MoneyPoint. MoneyPoint has gotten their banking license. Once you saddle into banking, you're there already. So MoneyPoint has gotten, is moving to a full commercial bank.
Wow.
Most other fintechs or the bigger ones would morph, right? Because it's about license and what you can do and what you can't do, right? So they started here, but they've sort of evolved to become to that point that they're going to become a commercial bank, right? So the standard of banking is generally going to change. That's the truth. If you don't...
So we'll get to a stage in life where we'll just sit down at our comfort zone and just order, and then we just get our money.
That's lots of other solutions will even evolve. That's the easy one. Because if you think about it, if you have a POS guy today, you can just call him and say, Oga Alpha, bring cash to my house, right? And he'll bring the cash, right?
Yeah.
So you're already there with that. It's that, Nigerians are still very distrusting. So, but if you have someone as at today, maybe the guy is in front of your gate with that terminal, you can just call him and say, I need 30K by tomorrow. It will be in your house, and you pay the agency fee attached to that. And the guy will be happy to bring it every day, right? But we're going to see more solutions based on customer preferences, and yeah.
I'm really enjoying this session, but let's go on a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Novice Podcast. We are still on the conversation of financial technologies, guys, and I'm still with Yonodu. Well, so I was thinking about these buzzwords like cryptocurrency, blockchain, and the likes. Are they like a different term, or are they intertwined into financial technologies technically?
Well, like I explained financial technology to you and how people tend to use it, so that it's quite easy for you to understand, right? Anyone that has a solution that infuses payment, savings, different things into that solution, it begins to. So if you look at some of the crypto apps right now, when you go on that app, right, you'll be able to do it beyond, the cryptocurrency. You'll be able to save. You have saving wallets, you have different things, right? So they are different in terms of the kinds of services that they provide. They are different in terms of the kinds of investments they promote. But essentially, most of them still work through an app. I don't think I know any crypto company that doesn't probably have an app, right? So in that sense, they are different in terms of the kinds of investment, the kinds of risk they want you to take, right? The kinds of returns they offer for those risks, right? Your traditional banks or some other popular ones would never give you those kinds of interest and stuff. So they're a bit different, but how they tend to go to the market is through the app and all that. So yes.
So you work in a financial, a microfinancial bank, right? So
Yes, please.
are they, sorry, trying to feel like the bigger banks, or are they also intertwined with fintech and the like?
So we're a bank. We're not trying to be a bank. We have a banking license.
Okay.
A lot of people, have apps that they run on different licenses, but we do have an MFB license, which and banking is banking, right? We're regulated by CBN, insured by NDIC, the whole 9 yards, right? So yes, we're actually a bank, but the way we choose to do banking is a bit different,
Okay.
right? So we are not a fintech. We're a bank that uses technology. That's how I like to define us.
Define it. So before we go into our games, we have like a little games, like questions, the audience throws.
Yeah, sure.
True, rather. So before we round up, what would you like? There are still stubborn people who don't want to partake or be involved with anything concerning financial technologies, and they're like, what would you tell the audience, and how would you really convince them that they shouldn't be scared and all of that, they're just integrating to the banking sector and all of that?
Well, I mean, for those in the audience that are, still thinking to adopt a solution, to use technology as part of their process in processing their payment, I would say if you've not started, which I think that a good part of the audience I'm speaking to have started. I mean, start small. Typically, that's my go-to when it comes to something that you've never done. Start small. Start with maybe savings or just payments, right? I remember when I had first joined the bank and I was trying to get customers, and, people would say, and I always tell my team as well, you never go to a guy and tell the guy, come and save all your money with me. No, it doesn't work. You go to the guy and say, create an account, and or just try to pay for your data every month. Try to pay so fund it with the money you use for your data payments, and just do that. After 2 months, you'll be like, oh yes, this works, right? And then you move to something else. So little steps, and then one day you discover that it's a solution suitable for you and it works. That's what I'll say.
Wow. You've been able to answer all of my tough questions, and I'm sure you're going to be able to pick from this Novice Dip. We have more questions here for you. So just take 2 questions and then I'll read it out for you.
Any 2?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll start from,
Okay. What's your take on cryptocurrency? Is it the future or just a trend?
Okay. Do you want to ask both and then I answer one after the other?
Just one after the other.
Okay. I would say that it's not a trend. It's been here for a while. And one of my professors that taught me in uni always said, follow the money. If you want to know what's going to last and what's going to feed, look at where people are putting their money. It's a strategy that always works. And I'll divert a bit, when a lot of polls were during the American elections were saying that some other candidate was going to win. But if you followed the people that were betting their money, they were betting it on Trump. So my advice would be follow the money. If you look at where people are investing their monies, you would see that crypto is not something that would just slip away. There are people who have appetites for those kinds of investments and the structure of it as well. So my take is it would always be here, and more complex solutions around it, we'll begin to see it in the next couple of years. So yes.
Thank you. And then for the last question, which you've already picked, if you could create a fintech app that does anything, what would it be?
That's a tough question, honestly. I would say that again, my own take is that the market has been flooded with too many
applications
that are unnecessary.
Okay.
And too many of them have been floated without proper understanding of, the compliance, the risk aspects of it. For me, if I would create an app at this time, it would still be a bank that uses technology to achieve its aims. I think that there's a lot of potential there. We already have multiple people trying to do the same things, but there's still a lot of innovation that can happen around it. There are still some processes that can be standardized to create a niche for yourself.
Okay.
In creating a solution that seems prevalent, you have to create a niche. And it's how people feel when they interact with you, like I told you. The game changer would always be the experience of the customer. And you can create a niche where customers, when they come to you, they can say that, of a truth, this is my experience with these people. And what they say is what they mean. So, yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we've all learned a lot from this session. And it's great to have you, our very first female guest, Yonodu Okeugo. Thank you very much for being our guest for today.
Thank you, Tolu, for having me. You've been a delightful host, and hopefully I'll be back sometime. But this time, you have to give me pounds. Thank you so much.
Bye.